In 2006, Jensen Huang made a decision that looked almost insane. NVIDIA was a company known for one thing: making graphics cards for gamers. But Huang believed those same chips could eventually power something far bigger than video games. So NVIDIA began building a technology called CUDA. There was just one problem. Almost nobody wanted it. The AI revolution had not started yet. ChatGPT didn't exist. Generative AI didn't exist. And the market NVIDIA was preparing for was so small that the entire strategy looked like an expensive gamble. But Jensen Huang kept investing. For nearly 2 decades, NVIDIA built the infrastructure for a future that had not yet arrived. Then, suddenly, the future arrived. And today, the entire world is fighting for NVIDIA's chips. But how did a gaming hardware company become the gatekeeper of artificial intelligence? The answer begins with a bet almost nobody understood. In the early 2000s, computers had a problem. Their CPUs were extremely powerful, but they were designed to perform tasks one after another. And some problems require millions of calculations to happen at the same time. That was exactly what graphics processing units, or GPUs, were good at. Rendering millions of pixels required massive amounts of parallel calculations. NVIDIA realized something unusual. The same architecture used to render a video game could potentially process scientific research, financial models, and eventually artificial intelligence. So in 2006, NVIDIA launched CUDA. CUDA allowed programmers to use NVIDIA's GPUs for general-purpose computing. But this was not simply a new product. It was a bet on an entirely different future. And NVIDIA had a major problem. Why would developers spend years learning a new system for a market that barely existed? The answer was that NVIDIA kept building anyway. It gave researchers the tools. It created libraries. It built the software. It trained developers. And slowly, something extremely important began to happen. People started building their work around NVIDIA. That would eventually become NVIDIA's greatest advantage. Most chip companies compete by making better hardware. NVIDIA did something much more dangerous. It built an ecosystem. Imagine buying a computer. The physical machine is important, but what makes it truly useful is the software running on it. CUDA became something similar. Researchers and developers began creating tools specifically designed to run on NVIDIA GPUs. The more software that was built for CUDA, the more attractive NVIDIA hardware became. And the more NVIDIA hardware researchers bought, the more developers had a reason to keep using CUDA. It created a loop. More developers, more software, more NVIDIA GPUs, more developers. For competitors, this created a terrifying problem. Building a chip similar to NVIDIA's was difficult. But building the software ecosystem that had grown around NVIDIA was even harder. The real NVIDIA product was no longer just the chip. It was the entire ecosystem surrounding the chip. But NVIDIA still needed something enormous to happen. It needed AI to discover what GPUs could really do. And then, in 2012, that happened. For decades, researchers had been trying to build artificial neural networks. But training them required enormous amounts of computing power. Traditional CPUs were simply not ideal for the task. Then researchers began using GPUs. And suddenly, neural networks could be trained dramatically faster. One of the most important breakthroughs came in 2012. A neural network called AlexNet achieved a breakthrough in image recognition. But the real story was not just the algorithm. It was the hardware. AlexNet had been trained using NVIDIA GPUs. The technology NVIDIA had spent years developing for a future market had suddenly found its purpose. And the timing was perfect. Deep learning was beginning to accelerate. Technology companies started investing heavily in AI. Researchers needed more computing power. Then came bigger models. More data, more GPUs, and eventually, ChatGPT. When the world suddenly wanted artificial intelligence, NVIDIA was already waiting. The company had spent years building the roads. Now everyone wanted to drive on them. But NVIDIA's biggest transformation was still ahead. Because the company realized something important. The future of AI would not be powered by individual graphics cards. It would require entire data centers, thousands of chips, specialized networking, massive amounts of memory, advanced cooling, and enormous amounts of electricity. So NVIDIA began moving up the stack. It started selling more than chips. It began building complete computing systems. The new vision was no longer, here is a GPU. It was, here is the entire factory that produces artificial intelligence. And this changed the scale of the business completely. Technology companies began spending billions of dollars building AI infrastructure. Cloud companies wanted more chips. AI startups wanted more chips. Governments wanted more chips. And suddenly, the most important question in the AI race was not, who has the best idea? It was, who can get enough computing power? This created a global scramble. Because NVIDIA could design the chips, but the world still needed the factories capable of manufacturing them. It needed advanced packaging. It needed high bandwidth memory. It needed data centers. It needed electricity. The AI race had become an infrastructure race, and NVIDIA was sitting at the center of it. But there is a problem with becoming too powerful. Eventually, your customers start asking, why are we paying NVIDIA so much? Google has its own AI chips. Apple designs its own silicon. Other technology companies are developing custom accelerators. And NVIDIA's biggest customers are also its biggest potential competitors. They are all trying to reduce their dependence on one company. At the same time, AI models are becoming more efficient. If companies can get the same performance using fewer chips, the demand for NVIDIA's hardware could eventually change. So NVIDIA's future depends on a crucial question. Can the company continue creating new demand faster than its customers can escape its ecosystem? In 2006, Jensen Huang bet on a future that barely existed. He built software nobody desperately needed. He invested in chips for a market that had not yet arrived. And for years, it looked like NVIDIA might have made a massive mistake. Then artificial intelligence changed everything. The gamble paid off. But the story is not over. Because NVIDIA did not simply win the AI revolution. It built the infrastructure that made the revolution possible. And now, the entire world is trying to build on top of it, while simultaneously trying to escape it. So the real question is not whether NVIDIA won the AI race. For now, it clearly has. The real question is this: did NVIDIA build the infrastructure of the future, or did it simply become the most valuable toll booth on the road to it? Because Jensen Huang made a bet on the future. And so far, the future has kept proving him right. If you enjoyed this story, hit like. It helps more people discover videos like this. And if you want more stories about the companies, strategies, and decisions shaping the future, subscribe, because the next billion-dollar gamble may already be happening.